Am I overreacting if I choose to back out of my best friend's wedding after how she treated me during the worst week of my life? Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica. I'm 35, and I need to tell you about the moment I realized my best friend wasn't actually my friend at all. I want to start by saying that I'm not someone who gives up on friendships easily. I'm loyal, sometimes to a fault. I'm the person who will show up at 2 a.m. if you need me. I'm the friend who remembers your birthday, who checks in when you're going through something hard, who will literally board your dog for free because that's just what friends do for each other. But there's a limit, right? There has to be a point where you look at a friendship and realize it's not actually serving you anymore. Where you recognize that the person you're bending over backwards for wouldn't do the same for you. Where you understand that loyalty doesn't mean letting someone treat you like garbage and just accepting it. It's about my friend Sarah. Well, former friend Sarah, though she doesn't know that yet. It's about how she called me while I was at my ex-boyfriend's funeral to scream at me about her dog. And it's about why I'm seriously considering backing out of her wedding 8 months before it happens, even though I know she's going to lose her absolute mind when I do. So let me take you back to the beginning, because this whole situation is complicated and messy, and I need you to understand the full context of how we got here. Sarah came into my life about a year and a half ago as a client. I run a dog boarding and training business out of my home. It's something I started about 5 years ago after leaving corporate life, and honestly, it's been the best decision I ever made. I love dogs. I love working for myself, and I'm good at what I do. Sarah hired me to board her dog, Luna, a sweet but anxious golden retriever with some health issues. Luna has a sensitive stomach, requires specific medications, and has a history of eating things she shouldn't: socks, toys, random objects she finds around the house. Sarah was always very upfront about Luna's issues, which I appreciated. It helped me provide better care. Our first few interactions were purely professional. Sarah would drop Luna off, we'd exchange information about medications and feeding schedules, and that was it. But then, one day when she came to pick Luna up, she was clearly upset. Her eyes were red, her makeup was smudged, and when I asked if she was okay, she just broke down. She'd just gone through a brutal breakup. Her boyfriend of 3 years had cheated on her, and she'd found out in the most humiliating way possible, through social media, seeing pictures of him with the other woman at a restaurant they used to go to together. And here's the thing, I was going through almost the exact same situation. My boyfriend of 4 years, Marcus, and I had just split up about 2 weeks earlier. Not because of cheating, but because we'd grown apart and the relationship had just run its course. It was amicable, but it was still painful. So I invited Sarah in for coffee, and we ended up talking for like 3 hours. About heartbreak, about starting over in your 30s, about how hard it is to rebuild your life when someone's been such a huge part of it. We bonded over our shared pain, and it felt really genuine. It felt like the kind of friendship that emerges from vulnerability and real connection. After that, we started hanging out regularly. Coffee dates, wine nights at my place, the occasional hike with our dogs. She was fun, energetic, always had some dramatic story to tell. She's one of those people who fills up a room with their presence, loud, opinionated, unfiltered. At first, I found it refreshing. She said what she thought, didn't play games, wore her heart on her sleeve. Looking back now, I can see that what I interpreted as refreshingly honest was actually just reactive and lacking in emotional regulation. But I'm getting ahead of myself. About 6 months into our friendship, Sarah met someone new. His name was Chris, and apparently it was love at first sight. Within a month, she was talking about how he was the one. Within 3 months, they were living together. And 5 months after they met, he proposed. I was happy for her. I really was. She'd been so heartbroken after her previous relationship, and seeing her excited and optimistic again was genuinely nice, even if it did feel a little fast. I need to talk about Marcus for a minute because he's central to this whole story. Marcus and I dated for 4 years, but we were friends for 2 years before that. We met through a mutual friend, hit it off immediately, and spent those first 2 years in this comfortable friendship where everyone around us kept saying, "You two should just date already." Eventually we did, and it was good for a while. We had fun together, we supported each other, we built a life that worked. But somewhere around year 3, we both started to realize that we were better as friends than as romantic partners. The spark just wasn't there anymore. We were more like roommates who occasionally had sex than actual partners. So we had a really honest conversation, and we mutually decided to end the romantic relationship. It was sad, but it was also the right call. And because we'd been friends first, and because we genuinely cared about each other, we decided to stay in each other's lives. Plus, and this is important, our dogs were basically siblings. I have a German Shepherd named Atlas, and Marcus has a Husky named Coda. We got them around the same time when we were dating, and those dogs grew up together. They had play dates multiple times a week for years. They were best friends. We couldn't just cut each other off completely. It wouldn't have been fair to the dogs, and honestly, it wouldn't have been fair to us either. We'd been in each other's lives for 6 years total. That doesn't just disappear. So we stayed friends. We texted occasionally, usually about the dogs. About once a month, we'd meet up at a dog park or at one of our houses so Atlas and Coda could play together. It was platonic, it was healthy, and it worked for us. Not everyone understood it. Sarah, in particular, had opinions about it. She thought it was weird that I was still friends with my ex. She'd make comments like, "I could never do that," or "Don't you think that's preventing you from moving on?" But she never pushed it too hard, and I just brushed it off. Different people handle breakups differently. Just because she needed to completely cut her ex out of her life didn't mean I had to do the same with Marcus. Marcus was a good person. He was kind, steady, reliable. He worked in IT, had a close group of friends, loved his dog more than anything. We weren't meant to be romantic partners, but I still cared about him. He was still someone I valued in my life. I had no idea that within a year, I'd be the one who found his body. Late August of last year, Sarah and Chris went on a weekend trip upstate. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway, but Chris had apparently been planning something bigger. On Saturday afternoon, I got a call from Sarah. She was screaming, happy screaming, barely coherent. "Oh my God, Jess. Oh my God, he proposed. We're engaged. I'm getting married." I was genuinely excited for her. I congratulated her, asked her all the appropriate questions. "How did he do it? Were you surprised? Let me see the ring," via FaceTime. We talked for probably 45 minutes. She was over the moon, already planning the wedding in her head, talking about venues and dresses and asking if I'd be one of her bridesmaids. Of course I said yes. She was my friend. This was a big moment for her. I wanted to be part of it. We hung up and I went about my day. I had several dogs boarding at my house that weekend, including Luna. It was a busy day. Feeding schedules, medications, playtime, cleaning. I went to bed that night, tired but content, happy for Sarah, looking forward to a quiet Sunday. Sunday morning, my phone rang at 7:47 a.m. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. I'm not a morning person, and I'd been up late dealing with one of the boarding dogs who'd had an upset stomach. But something made me pick up. "Hello? Hi, is this Jessica Chen?" A man's voice, professional, slightly hesitant. "Yes, this is Jessica." "Hi, my name is David Richardson. I'm Marcus Chen's supervisor at TechCore Solutions. I'm calling because Marcus didn't show up to work on Friday, and he's not answering his phone. You're listed as his emergency contact. Have you heard from him recently?" My stomach dropped. Marcus was one of the most reliable people I knew. He didn't just not show up to work. Something was wrong. "I haven't talked to him in about a week and a half," I said, my brain already moving into crisis mode. "Have you tried his parents? His brother? We don't have contact information for anyone else. Just you. I'm getting a little worried. This isn't like him." "No, it's not," I agreed. My hands were shaking. "Give me 30 minutes. I'll go check on him and call you back." I threw on clothes, grabbed my keys, and drove to Marcus's house. It was a 20-minute drive that I made in about 13 minutes. The whole way there, I was telling myself it was fine. He probably just had food poisoning or the flu. He probably forgot to charge his phone. There was a reasonable explanation. But when I pulled up to his house and saw that his car was in the driveway and the lights were still on inside, even though it was almost 8:30 in the morning, I knew. I knocked on the door. No answer. I called his phone. I could hear it ringing inside the house. I tried the door, locked. That's when I called the police and asked for a wellness check. I told them I was worried about my friend, that he hadn't been to work, that he wasn't answering his phone, that this was completely out of character. They arrived within 15 minutes. An officer asked me some questions, then used the tools they had to open the door, and that's when we found him. Marcus was in his bedroom, in bed, like he'd just gone to sleep and never woken up. Coda, his husky, was lying next to the bed, quiet and clearly distressed. The officer checked for a pulse, radioed for EMS, but I could already tell. He was gone. The next few hours were a complete blur. The paramedics came. They confirmed what we already knew. A detective arrived to make sure there was no foul play. I had to answer questions, provide information, confirm his identity. And then I had to start making phone calls. I called Marcus's parents first. That was the hardest call I've ever had to make in my entire life. Telling someone that their son is dead. I don't have words for how awful that is. His mom screamed. His dad got very quiet and then just hung up. I called his brother next, then his best friend from college, then his supervisor back at work to let him know what had happened. Each call felt like reliving it. Each time I had to say the words, "Marcus is dead," it became a little more real. I stayed at the house until Marcus's family arrived. His mom was inconsolable. His dad was in shock, moving through the house like a ghost, touching Marcus's things. His brother just stood outside, staring at nothing. I helped them with what I needed to help with, talking to the medical examiner, giving them information about Marcus's life and routines, offering to take Coda until they figured out what they wanted to do. By the time I got home, it was after 6 p.m. I'd been at Marcus's house for almost 10 hours. I was emotionally destroyed, physically exhausted, and just empty. I had 7 missed calls from Sarah and about 15 text messages, all variations of, "OMG, call me back," and "I need to tell you about the wedding planning," and "Why aren't you answering?" I texted back, "Marcus died. I found him this morning. I can't talk right now." She responded immediately, "Oh my God, Jess, I'm so sorry. Let me know if you need anything." And that was it. No follow-up. No, "How are you doing?" No, "Do you want company?" Just that one message and then silence. I didn't really register it at the time. I was too numb, too overwhelmed. I spent the rest of that day and the next few days helping Marcus's family plan the funeral, coordinating with his friends, dealing with all the horrible logistics that come with unexpected death. The medical examiner later determined that Marcus had died from an undiagnosed heart condition, a congenital defect that no one knew about. He'd gone to bed on Thursday night and his heart had just stopped. He was 36 years old. The funeral was scheduled for the following Saturday, 1 week after Sarah got engaged, 1 week after I'd found Marcus. In the middle of all of this chaos, I still had a business to run. I still had dogs to take care of, including Luna. Luna had been with me for about 10 days at this point. This was normal. Sarah sometimes boarded her for a week or more when she traveled or was dealing with busy work periods. One of the things I do as part of my service is handle vet appointments if needed. Sarah had mentioned before she dropped Luna off that Luna was due for a routine treatment for her digestive issues. It was something Luna got every few months, a prescribed protocol from her vet that involved a 48-hour stay at the clinic for medication and monitoring. Sarah had already scheduled the appointment. All I had to do was drop Luna off on Tuesday and pick her up on Thursday. Tuesday was 5 days before Marcus's funeral. I was operating on autopilot at that point, just trying to get through each day. I dropped Luna off at the vet as scheduled, confirmed all of her information, made sure they had Sarah's contact details if anything came up. Thursday, I picked Luna up. The vet tech said everything had gone fine. Luna tolerated the treatment well. She was good to go home. Sarah was due to pick her up that evening. Sarah arrived around 7 p.m. I walked her through Luna's care, mentioned that the vet treatment had gone well, and sent her home with Luna's medications and food. That was the last time I saw Sarah in person. The next day, Friday, Sarah texted me, "Luna's acting weird. She seems uncomfortable and won't eat. I'm going to take her to the vet." I texted back, "Okay, keep me posted. Hope she's okay." I didn't think much of it. Luna had a sensitive system. It wasn't unusual for her to have some digestive upset, especially after a vet visit. A few hours later, Sarah texted again. "They're keeping her overnight for observation. They think there might be a blockage." My heart sank. A blockage is serious. It often requires surgery. It can be life-threatening. "Oh no, I'm so sorry. What happened?" I texted back. "I don't know yet. They're running tests." Saturday morning, the morning of Marcus's funeral, I woke up to a text from Sarah sent at 2 a.m. "Luna needs emergency surgery. They found a blockage. They also said the vet clinic forgot to give her one of her medications during her treatment. I can't believe this." I was already stressed beyond belief about the funeral, about seeing Marcus's family, about having to stand up and say something coherent during the service about a person I cared about who died way too young. And now I was worried about Luna, too. I texted back, "I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Sending love to you and Luna. Let me know how the surgery goes." The funeral started at 11 a.m. I'd spent the morning getting ready, trying to hold it together, rehearsing in my head what I was going to say during my eulogy. Marcus's parents had asked me to speak. They knew how much we'd meant to each other, how our friendship had endured even after the romantic relationship ended. They wanted me to share memories, to help people understand who Marcus really was. The service was beautiful and heartbreaking. His mom couldn't stop crying. His dad gave a speech that destroyed everyone in the room. His brother played a video montage that had photos from Marcus's entire life: baby pictures, childhood, college, recent photos with Coda. When it was my turn to speak, I walked up to the podium with my notes, and I just tried not to fall apart. I talked about Marcus's kindness, his stupid jokes, his love for his dog, the way he'd drop everything to help a friend. I told the story about how we'd stayed friends after breaking up because we genuinely valued each other, and how that friendship had been one of the most important relationships in my life. I was about 3/4 of the way through my speech when my phone started vibrating in my pocket. I ignored it, obviously. I'm in the middle of a funeral giving a eulogy. It stopped, then started again, then stopped, then started again. After I finished speaking and returned to my seat, I discreetly checked my phone. 7 missed calls from Sarah. I stepped outside thinking there must be an emergency. Maybe Luna had died during surgery. Maybe something terrible had happened. I called her back. She answered on the first ring and she was scream crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. "What did you feed my dog?" she screamed before I could even say hello. I was so shocked I couldn't respond for a second. "Sarah, what?" "Luna has a blockage and the vet said it's because she ate something she shouldn't have. What did she eat at your house?" My brain was struggling to process this. I was standing outside a funeral home, having just given a eulogy for someone I loved, and my supposed best friend was screaming at me about her dog. "Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "I don't know what Luna ate. She was fine when she was here. She was fine when I dropped her off at the vet. She was fine when I picked her up. She's been in your care for over 24 hours. Don't you dare try to blame this on me," she shouted. "You were supposed to be watching her. You were supposed to be taking care of her. This is your fault." "Sarah, I'm at Marcus's funeral right now. I don't care where you are. My dog is having emergency surgery. She could die, and it's because you weren't paying attention." I felt something inside me just snap. "Sarah," I said, and my voice was cold now, completely flat. "Luna has been in your care for over 24 hours. She has not been at my house for 5 days. If she ate something, it happened at your house, not mine. I'm at a funeral right now. I'm hanging up." And I did. I hung up on her, turned my phone off, and went back inside. I sat through the rest of the service in a state of numb shock. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I couldn't believe that Sarah had called me, knowing exactly where I was and what I was going through, to scream at me and blame me for something that wasn't my fault. After the funeral, after the burial, after the reception at Marcus's parents' house, I finally went home. It was around 8 p.m. I was emotionally obliterated. I just wanted to crawl into bed and sleep for about 14 hours. But I couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's accusation. Because even though I knew Luna hadn't eaten anything at my house, even though I was confident in my care, what if I was wrong? What if I'd missed something? I spent the next 4 hours going through every single second of security camera footage from the days Luna had been at my house before her vet appointment. I have cameras throughout my house and yard specifically for the dog boarding business. It helps me monitor the dogs, and it also protects me from exactly this kind of situation where a client might claim something happened that didn't. I reviewed everything. Every meal, every play session, every moment Luna was in my care. There was nothing. No opportunity for her to eat something she shouldn't have. No moments where she was unsupervised long enough to get into anything dangerous. No gaps in coverage where something could have happened off camera. Nothing. I was so angry I was shaking. I'd left a funeral early, Marcus's funeral, to review security footage to prove my innocence for something I didn't do. I texted Sarah. "I've reviewed all security footage from when Luna was here. There is nothing. She did not eat anything at my house. I'm sorry she's sick, but this did not happen in my care. No response. The next day, I got a text from her. Luna came through surgery okay. They removed a seed pod from her stomach. The vet thinks she ate it in our backyard. Not an apology. Not an acknowledgement that she'd accused me of something I didn't do. Not an, I'm sorry I called you screaming during a funeral. Just an update about the dog. I didn't respond. Over the next few weeks, Sarah sent me a series of texts that I can only describe as the non-apology tour. I was just so upset about Luna. You know how I get when I'm stressed. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was at the vet and they were telling me all these scary things. You know I didn't mean to blame you. I was just trying to figure out what happened. Notice what's missing from all of those? An actual apology. Not once did she say, I'm sorry. Not once did she acknowledge that calling me at a funeral to scream at me was completely unacceptable. Not once did she take responsibility for her actions. She also never mentioned the fact that it had been confirmed by her own vet that Luna's blockage had occurred after Luna left my care, that the seed pod came from Sarah's yard, that the vet clinic had actually been the ones who messed up by forgetting Luna's medication, not me. She just glossed over all of it and expected me to move on. And honestly, I probably would have moved on eventually if she'd actually apologized, if she'd shown even a tiny bit of awareness that she'd massively crossed a line. But she didn't. Instead, she started texting me about wedding planning, about bridesmaid dresses and bachelorette party ideas. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't called me screaming during the worst week of my life to blame me for something I didn't do. I responded minimally. Sounds good. Whatever you prefer. I'm flexible. I was in such a fog of grief about Marcus that I didn't have the emotional energy to deal with the Sarah situation. So I just didn't. I responded enough to not be rude, but I wasn't engaging. The weeks turned into months. Sarah kept texting about the wedding. She'd set a date for next August, about 8 months away. She sent Pinterest boards. She asked for opinions on venues. I kept giving one-word answers. We live 15 minutes apart, and in the 4 months since Marcus died, I haven't seen her once. We haven't had coffee, haven't met up, haven't done anything except exchange texts about wedding logistics. And somewhere in those 4 months, I realized something. I don't actually want to be friends with Sarah anymore. It wasn't just the funeral phone call, although that was certainly the breaking point. It was everything leading up to it, everything after it, and the pattern of behavior I'd been ignoring because I wanted to believe we had a real friendship. Sarah is reactive. She always has been. When something goes wrong, her first instinct is to lash out, to find someone to blame, to make it someone else's problem. Then, after she's calmed down, she expects everyone to just forget it happened. No accountability, no real apology, just moving on and expecting everyone else to do the same. I'd seen her do this with other people, her mom, her sister, her coworkers, even Chris sometimes, but I'd always rationalized it. That's just how Sarah is. She doesn't mean it. She's just passionate. But after the funeral call, I couldn't rationalize it anymore. Because when you call someone who's supposed to be your best friend, while they're at their ex-boyfriend's funeral to scream at them about something that isn't their fault, that's not being passionate. That's being cruel. That's being so self-absorbed that you literally cannot think about anyone else's feelings, even for a single day. And the thing is, I don't think Sarah is a bad person. I genuinely don't. I think she's just incredibly emotionally immature. I think she's someone who's never had to face real consequences for her behavior, so she's never learned to regulate her emotions or consider other people before she reacts. But that doesn't mean I have to accept being treated that way. I started thinking about our friendship with clear eyes, without the rose-colored glasses of wanting it to work. What did we actually have in common? She's engaged, planning a wedding, in a completely different life stage. I'm single, running a business, still processing grief. We don't have the same interests, we don't have the same values, we don't even really enjoy the same activities. Our friendship was born from shared trauma, going through breakups at the same time. But that's not enough to sustain a long-term friendship. We bonded over something temporary, and once that crisis passed, there wasn't much left. I also realized that in our entire friendship, Sarah had never been there for me in any meaningful way. When I was going through my breakup with Marcus, she was a good listener for about 2 weeks. Then she met Chris, and suddenly all our conversations became about her new relationship. When Marcus died, arguably the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to me, She sent one sympathetic text and then nothing. No checking in, no offering support, no how are you doing? Just wedding planning texts and that nightmare phone call. Meanwhile, I'd been there for everything with her. Her breakup, her anxiety about dating again, her excitement about Chris, her engagement. I'd celebrated every high and supported her through every low. Our friendship was completely one-sided, and I'd been too loyal, too accommodating, too afraid of conflict to acknowledge it. So here I am, 4 months after Marcus died, and I'm supposed to be in Sarah's wedding in 8 months. Dresses haven't been ordered yet. Sarah keeps changing her mind about colors and styles. The bachelorette party hasn't been planned. We're still in the early stages of wedding prep, which means if I'm going to back out, now is the time to do it. Before she orders dresses, before deposits are paid for things based on headcount, before we're too far into the process. But I keep not doing it. And you want to know why? Because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of Sarah's reaction. I know exactly what's going to happen. She's going to lose her mind. She's going to scream. She's going to cry. She's going to accuse me of ruining her wedding. She's going to tell everyone that I'm a terrible friend who abandoned her. She's going to make this into the biggest drama imaginable. And part of me, the part that spent our entire friendship avoiding conflict and trying to keep the peace, wants to just suck it up, stay in the wedding, spend the money on the dress and the bachelorette party and all the other expenses, smile through it all, and then after the wedding, just quietly let the friendship fade. But the rational part of me knows that's insane. If I stay in this wedding, I'm looking at spending thousands of dollars. The bridesmaid dress, alterations, hair and makeup for the wedding day, travel expenses for the bachelorette party, a wedding gift, plus months of emotional labor, dress shopping, parties, helping with DIY projects, listening to wedding stress, all for someone I don't even want to be friends with anymore. Someone who's shown me exactly who she is and how little she actually values me. Why would I do that? The only reason is fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of her reaction, fear of being the bad guy. But here's what I keep coming back to. I already am the bad guy in Sarah's version of this story. I'm the person who caused her dog's blockage. I didn't. I'm the person who wasn't sympathetic enough when she called me screaming at a funeral. I'm the person who's been distant lately because I don't want to be her friend anymore. Sarah is always going to frame herself as the victim and everyone else as the problem. That's who she is. That's how she operates. So whether I back out now or stay in the wedding and quietly distance myself after, she's going to have a meltdown and paint me as the villain anyway. At least if I back out now, I'll save myself thousands of dollars and months of pretending to care about a wedding I have no interest in attending. I've decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell Sarah I can't be in her wedding. I'm still working out exactly how to phrase it, but here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to be honest, but not brutal. I'm going to acknowledge that our friendship has changed, that I've been struggling since Marcus died, and that I don't think I can show up as the kind of bridesmaid she deserves. I'm not going to bring up the funeral phone call specifically, because that will just derail the conversation into her defending herself. I'm not going to list all the ways she's been a bad friend, because that's not productive. I'm just going to be clear, firm, and kind. I can't be in your wedding. I'm sorry for any inconvenience this causes. I wish you the best. And then I'm going to hold my boundary when she inevitably loses it, because she will. I know she will. She's going to cry, she's going to yell, she's going to try to make me feel guilty. She might call me in the middle of the night like she did at the funeral. She might text me 100 times. She might show up at my house. But I'm going to hold firm, because I've spent the last year and a half bending over backwards for someone who wouldn't do the same for me. I've ignored red flags. I've made excuses for bad behavior. I've prioritized her feelings over my own. And I'm done. Marcus's death taught me something important. Life is short. Time is precious. And I don't want to waste any more of my time on friendships that don't serve me, with people who don't value me. I want to invest my energy in relationships that are reciprocal, where I feel seen and supported, where I don't have to walk on eggshells or fear an emotional explosion every time there's a problem. Sarah is not that person. She never has been. And staying in her wedding out of guilt or fear isn't going to change that. So, am I overreacting? I don't think so. I think I'm finally reacting appropriately after months of underreacting, of being too understanding, of giving too many chances to someone who's shown me over and over again that she's not capable of being the kind of friend I need. The funeral phone call was the moment I couldn't ignore it anymore. But the truth is, the signs were there all along. I just didn't want to see them. If you're listening to this and you're in a similar situation, where you're holding on to a friendship out of guilt or history or fear of conflict, I want you to really think about whether that friendship is actually adding value to your life. Not every friendship is meant to last forever. Some people come into our lives for a season, and that's okay. It doesn't mean the friendship wasn't real or meaningful while it lasted. It just means you've grown in different directions. And if someone shows you who they are, especially in a crisis, especially when you really need them, believe them. Sarah showed me who she is, and I'm choosing to believe her. Now I just have to actually send that text. Wish me luck.